Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Borokov and I'm a community nutrition educator and registered dietitian with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Nassau County. Today we're talking about healthy make and take meals, and I want to thank the Friends of the Garden City Library for sponsoring this program. So today is all about making healthy meals that are easy to prep and portable. There's definitely a need for us to be able to prepare wholesome, healthy foods in easy and convenient ways because we are busier than ever. Even with COVID, even though our days may look a little bit different, we still have to juggle things like school, work, kids, family obligations, and friends. So takeout foods, maybe not dining in so much, delivery. We don't even need to talk to somebody if we order online or through an app. And the money that we spend on food outside the home has also risen from 26% in 1970 to 42% in 2012. We now spend more money on food outside the home than inside. Why is that? So there's definitely more women in the workforce. In the 1960s, over 90% of women cooked. And in 2007, 2008, we see that number drop to about 68%. And those who do cook spend less time doing so. So down from 113 minutes a day to 66 minutes a day. We also have a low rate of inflation on food. This decreases the amount that we spend on groceries, but also gives us sort of more money or more wiggle room to spend on pizza or other fast food items. There's also competition between places like Walmart or Amazon Fresh and traditional supermarkets. There are also more places that offer food. So train stations, bookstores, gas stations, you're never too far from something that's super convenient, especially if you're really hungry. We are interested in food, but don't necessarily love to cook. So we watch a ton of food TV, different cooking shows like Iron Chef or Chopped or Top Chef, and every celebrity seems to have written a cookbook. And this inspires us to want to eat more and also raises our standards for good food, but hasn't necessarily increased our desire to cook. One journalist from the Harvard Business Review looked at consumers 17 years apart and found that the percentage of Americans who really love to cook has dropped by about a third, which is so crazy to me. To make matters worse, many people who are cooking meals aren't exactly cooking per se, they're merely heating up convenience foods and calling it cooking. So why bother cooking when we don't have to? Food companies have made great strides in creating more healthful convenience food products made from whole food ingredients without added sugar, fat, or salt. They're also getting things like trans fats out of our food supply. However, many convenience foods don't always measure up and may not help us meet our goals for a healthful eating pattern. So why cook? Many studies have found that eating out more often is linked to higher body fat, body weight, and obesity, especially fast food. There are lower rates of obesity observed in countries where individuals spend more time preparing their food. It can be harder to meet goals when you're constantly eating outside the home, goals like a healthy weight, normal lipid, glucose, and blood pressure levels, and we know that there's enormous power in cooking when it comes to disease prevention. We have 100% control as to what goes into our meals and snacks when we prepare them at home, and how much we eat. We're also able to connect more with our food when we know where it comes from and how to use it in its natural form. So try going to a farmer's market and discussing a new vegetable with the farmer. They can tell you the best ways to clean it, store it, and cook it. You can also make it a family experience. Try making a new recipe with your kids, grandkids, or friends, and create new memories enjoying the experience together. So although we may not be able to be physically together depending on what's going on in your family, we can also do virtual sessions like this. So imagine doing a FaceTime or a video session where you're preparing the same recipe and you're still able to enjoy the meal together. We can also save a lot of money. Eating out for every meal is incredibly expensive. I don't know about you, but it's hard to find lunch around here for under $10, and typically I'm left, dissatisfied or wanting. The cheapest places to get meals are often places with dollar menus. So you might be able to make a comparable meal at home, money-wise, maybe not time-wise. This is a great quote from Michael Pollan. If you don't know him, he's a well-known journalist who has written for the New York Times and has authored a number of books, including The Omnivore's Dilemma and In Defense of Food. So think about it. If you only ate cookies and pastries and breads that you made, it's possible that you wouldn't have them every day because it would take a lot more effort and time to make them yourself. You'd also know exactly the quality of ingredients going into it. So after all we've discussed, we need to figure out what we can do to make prepping and cooking at home easier and more convenient. When in doubt, use MyPlate as a reference. It will help you to create balanced meals at home or in a restaurant. You can see on the left what the guidelines used to look like. The pyramid was very confusing. So MyPlate can give you a very realistic idea of what you should be putting on your plate and how much, without any measuring required. This gives us a bit more information about what a recommendation looks like for the day. So we want at least 4.5 to 5 cups of fruits and veggies per day, mostly whole grains, a variety of protein. Dairy, if you choose not to have dairy, include other foods that can replace this source of calcium, like fortified non-dairy beverages. You can also see here what a serving of each group looks like. Stocking a pantry full of healthy options is another great way to make it easier for us to prep something quick for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Don't have time to hit the grocery store? Pantry staples can help you create something quick and easy. Frozen and canned fruits and veggies can also be a quick, healthy option, without any added sugars or sauces, of course. Use frozen fruits and veggies for smoothies, stir-fries, soups, you name it. Join a CSA. You're guaranteed farm-fresh veggies at a reasonable price, and it can encourage you to experiment with new veggies. Stock up on as many whole grains as possible. Pasta from whole grains or even legumes like chickpea or lentil, quinoa, rice, whole wheat tortillas, oats, barley. You can easily make quick pasta dishes or stir-fries in 20 minutes, especially if you've already made a big batch of brown rice or quinoa earlier in the week. You can also use frozen fruit or nuts in the pantry with old-fashioned oats and create overnight oats for the next morning. How about shelf-stable proteins? So canned tuna, dried beans or peas, lentils, nuts and nut butters. Canned beans are especially versatile. Be sure to drain and rinse. This can remove up to 40% of the sodium. You can throw them into soup, on top of salads, into veggie tacos or chili, or even pasta dishes. Herbs and spices can also make any meal delicious and exciting. You can take the same ingredients, think rice, veggies, and protein, and take it into a completely different direction depending on what spices you use. Many of us feel like we just don't have enough time in the day to prep healthy meals or for the whole family. So being strategic and maximizing your time in the kitchen can save you time and energy later in the week. So when you do have time, make extra of everything, right? Extra soup, extra roasted veggies, extra chicken, rice. Roast more vegetables than you need on a sheet pan. You can either take it for lunch the next day or save it for dinner another night. Combine with rice or pasta or tortilla and make it a completely different meal. Using a slow cooker can also help you make enough for a few different meals. Be smart with leftovers. You don't have to have the same dinner with the same ingredients. Sort of already touched on this with the different spices you can use as well. So if I have extra beans, chicken, and veggies from taco night, maybe I'll make nachos the next day or eat it with rice or eggs another day. Keep convenient snacks on hand that are already prepped and portioned out. Low-fat string cheese, individual unsweetened applesauce, hard-boiled eggs, individual bags of popcorn, low-fat yogurt, individual cups of peanut butter or hummus. You can also chop up fresh fruit or veggies when you have time to grab and go. Combine that with the portioned out foods above and you're good to go. What about quick tips for eating out? Even though we may not be dining in, we're still ordering in, ordering takeout, having delivery. And I'm in no way saying that to swear that off for good. It's not realistic. I also love trying new foods in new restaurants. When I can, I enjoy it with my husband, my friends, and my family. And I definitely have had a few meals delivered during quarantine. But when you do eat out, be smart with the kinds of foods you choose and how much. So, especially if it's something super indulgent, maybe share it with a friend. Ask for your dressings or sauces on the side. Ask for half of the portion to be packaged separately so you could save that for another meal. Choose baked and steamed over fried and smothered, and definitely ask for more veggies. But also, you may also take a look at the foods that you're ordering, the meals that you love, and try to recreate it at home. Overnight oats are an incredibly simple, easy, make-ahead meal that can be brought either to work, to the beach, for a picnic, and you can definitely use whatever's in season or whatever flavors you like. So I like to start with 1/3 cup of old-fashioned oats. I don't use quick cooking because they can disintegrate a little bit and steel cut may not soften as much as we'd like. I then use usually 1/2 cup at least of either almond milk or oat milk or something like that. You can use cow's milk or soy milk if you're looking for that little protein boost. I usually use somewhere between 1 and 2 teaspoons of different seeds, so either chia or hemp seeds. I'm using 1/4 cup of diced peaches. If it is the fall, you can use apples, you can use frozen berries if you don't have any fresh fruit on hand, bananas, you name it. I like to use cinnamon and nutmeg as well, and a splash of vanilla extract. So the peaches, the cinnamon, the vanilla allows me to add sweetness without necessarily needing to add something like maple syrup or honey. So I just made this already, and it's been sitting in the fridge. So I like to add everything together. If you do want something like nuts or something with texture, I would suggest putting that in when you are ready to eat it. So I usually keep this in the fridge for about 6 to 8 hours, so either throughout the day if I want to have it for a snack later, or overnight, which is why they're called overnight oats. So I wish you could smell it. It smells really great. It has that really nice warm, and vanilla scented aroma that we get from pie, right? Peach pie, peach cobbler. And so it feels a little bit special without necessarily being super labor intensive or really calorically dense. So you can easily toss this in your lunch bag, your cooler bag, something like that. I do sometimes like to warm it up, so if I'm home, maybe I'll stick it in the microwave, without the metal cap, of course. But you can also add whatever you like. So if you want nut butters, if you want to add yogurt even, if you add yogurt or even a nut butter, you may need to add a little bit more liquid, just so you can sort of balance out the texture. You also might like a different ratio of the solid to liquid. So play around with it and figure out what you like the best. This next recipe is a kale and quinoa salad, and it's great for using produce from your CSA, maybe even from your garden, or just using things that are stuck in your fridge. So I like to add cooked grains from, maybe a previous night's dinner into my salads. I find that it makes them heartier and also makes a great lunch and gives it a little bit of texture that I like. And kale gets a little bit of a bad reputation. It is by no means my favorite green, but I also think the reputation has to do with the way that it's prepared. And often if you don't do anything to kale, it can be really tough and chewy and sort of just that green that you want to use for a garnish. But some of the trick is massaging the kale with your dressing. So here I have a lemon basil vinaigrette. So I've already prepped this in my mini food processor. So here we have lemon juice, olive oil, garlic, Dijon, a little bit of honey and basil, salt and pepper of course. So the trick is that before I add the rest of my ingredients, I'm going to gently massage the kale with about half the dressing. And what's really great about this is if this is a salad that you want to prep and bring till lunch for work, even bring to a picnic or something like that, you can massage that kale with a little bit of that dressing, add the rest of the ingredients, and let it sit until your meal. So as it sits, the kale will break down a little bit, it'll become a little more tender. And then you can either add the rest of the dressing later if you want, or completely leave it off. I think it would be great either way. So in addition to the kale and the quinoa, I also added some edamame. You can also use a different bean or some other source of protein, maybe chicken, grape tomatoes. Some of these are from my garden. I had a little bit of red onion left that had been sort of sitting in my fridge, so I chopped that up. You can use a different onion or shallots or something like that. And I also decided to use peaches. So I like to include some sort of fruit because I think it really balances it out nicely. You could use mango, apple, anything really. I think it will just help bring that sweetness that we're looking for. So I have clean hands, and as I mentioned, I'm going to pour about half of the vinaigrette onto the kale. So I've chopped the kale a little bit, and I have taken out those big stems and cut them into smallish pieces. And then I'm going to massage the kale for about just a few minutes. And as you massage it, you'll start feeling that the texture changes. It goes from being super crunchy and rigid to soft and a little more malleable. And that's because, the physical action of massaging it and also a little bit of that lemon juice is helping to break down that cell wall so you don't get as, rough of a texture. And you'll also see that little by little, the amount of kale, just like when you cook spinach, it sort of gets a lot less in that bowl. All right. So once you feel the texture changing, once you feel like all of the kale leaves have been, sufficiently coated, that's when we're going to add the rest of our ingredients. So I have the red onion, I have peaches, have my tomatoes from my garden. About 1.5 cups of edamame. Again, you don't have to use edamame. You can use a different bean or even chicken or something. I do like to add that just to give it a little bit of protein. And that quinoa. So that quinoa is not only going to give it that texture, it's also going to give us some plant-based protein, fiber, all that good stuff. So I'm going to mix everything together. And you can see how beautiful everything looks. The colors are really nice. This is going to hold up really well, either in a mason jar, in a a Tupperware container, in your cooler, on your little backyard picnic. And like I said, you can stop here, especially if you're going to take it with you, or you can add the rest of that dressing. You can also taste as you go and just see, maybe you'll bring the dressing along, and not everybody's going to want that extra dressing. But that basil, a little bit of honey, that lemon juice is going to give us a lot of brightness. And you can already see all the nutrients. When we want to eat the rainbow, it's because we want to get a variety of vitamins, nutrients, minerals, those antioxidants that we're getting from all these different plant-based foods. So here we have it. This is that kale and quinoa salad. You can use it as inspiration and use completely different ingredients. If you can't stand kale, you can use a spinach salad. You just might not need to massage it or let it sit longer because the flavor will already sort of meld, and you don't need to worry about breaking down the cell wall of something tender like spinach. All right, here I have my salad ready to take with me to lunch tomorrow. I think the flavors will meld especially well overnight, so that kale can have a little extra time to break down and also absorb the flavors. But I'm gonna go ahead and eat a little bit now and save this for lunch tomorrow. I'll wind up bringing a little bit of the dressing with me in case I feel like it needs a little more of that flavor. Otherwise, I think it's gonna be the perfect pick-me-up for lunch tomorrow. So I hope you enjoyed this workshop. I want to thank the Friends of Garden City Library again for sponsoring the program. You can find more nutrition tips and recipes at ccenassau.org. Thanks so much and have a great day.